So first, let's come to the global energy mix, right? And the first question that we should start with and is currently, if you see the global energy mix, I'm not talking about electricity, right? The energy mix. So how much of that is contributed by fossil fuels? So there's renewables, right? Which is solar, wind, hydro, everything. And then there's fossil fuels, which is primarily coal, oil, and gas. So what percentage of the global energy mix is coming from fossil fuels right now? Please leave your answers on chat. Okay, 60%. Let me give the options. The options are 25%, 50%, 67%, and 80%. Okay, we have 60%, we have 75 plus percent, 80%, Rishi, 67%, 80%. Okay, another 5 seconds if anyone of you wants to add. Okay, so the consensus is between 67 to, okay, so 67%. We are getting a lot more 67%. 67%. Okay, perfect. So the answer to that question is almost 80 or just north of 80%, right? Still comes from fossil fuels, right? In even this age of day and age of renewables, almost 80% of power of energy, right, still comes from fossil fuels. Just telling how important it is. Now, let's go. Now, let's just go into the future, right? Let's go to 2050. What, like, of course, there's different forecasts, and like different forecasts vary by plus minus 5-10%. But what proportion in the reference or the business as usual scenario, what percent of the global energy demand will be met by renewables in 2050? Again, the same option. Sorry, let me rephrase it. Let me rephrase the question. What percentage of the global energy demand will be met by fossil fuels in 2050? The options are same: 25%, 50%, 67%, and 80%. Okay, so we've got many answers. Uh, a lot of people are saying between 25 to 50%. There's some people who are also saying it's about, I think 50% is the upper limit, right? That everyone is saying. Fantastic. And then there's also a point that in some European countries have managed more than 50%, right? Of course, it looks in corners like some countries have done it, but what we fail to recognize is there's a huge, like the world is huge, right? There's so many countries that are still primarily fossil fuel driven. Uh, okay, so let's see what the answer is. Here we go. Currently, on this chart, as you can see, let me see if I can annotate by a spotlight. Yes. So as you can see here, 20% of energy in the world is still renewables currently. Even in 2050, in a business as usual scenario, right? Only 35% will be from renewables. Of course, the world, right? We can debate whether the world is heading in this scenario, based on the way decarbonization is happening right now, right? And climate change action is happening. This could well be over 50-55%, right? But what we can safely assume is at least 30-40% of the energy mix, even in 2050, will still be fossil fuels. Now let's look at some interesting insights, right? By 2050, renewables will be the largest individual fuel. That is for sure. The coal share globally is already declining, right? So now the coal demand in the world is declining. So not a good idea to pursue a career in coal mining, if anyone of you is considering that. The coal share is already declining. And oil and gas, right? Oil and gas, though it's still increasing, but we are expecting the peak demand of oil and gas to come early in the early 2030s. Uh, Something interesting has happened in COVID, right? This entire shift to renewables has just accelerated during COVID because oil demand fell down because of lack of transportation, oil prices fell down, returns fell down, right? And renewables grew a lot. So the oil and gas demand has gone down. So people are expecting that the oil and gas peak, which is currently coming around 2032 or 2036, right? That might even come in the late 2020s. So that's on the global energy mix front. Now let's from the broad energy sector, let's come to the renewable. Let's come to the power sector, right? Which is the electricity that we use. The Again, the question. Let's one more question on this, and let's look at the global power sector. Uh, which which is the which is the and let's look at two buckets of technologies, right? One is renewables, solar, wind, hydro, and second bucket is thermal, right? Coal generation, gas generation, all of them come there. Uh, in terms of the annual capacity addition, which is the larger group of technologies? Is more capacity getting added? Let's say last year in 2020, did more renewable capacity get added or did more thermal capacity get added? The options that you have are renewables or thermal. Okay, we have thermal, renewable. Folks, leave your answers on chat. What do you think was the larger share of technology? Okay, thermal, renewable, it's quite divided between thermal and renewables. I think now it's swinging towards renewables. Fantastic. So let's actually move to the next slide, right? And as you can see here, this is the global capacity addition, right? Year on year, and it's been bucketed into like the different groups of years, right? And this is the capacity that was added. The green color is, no surprise, is wind. Yellow color, again, no prize for guessing, is solar. The blue is hydro, and the gray and the dark blue, right, is gas, coal, and other thermal generation sources. So as you see, right, till almost 2009, renewable capacity addition was less than 20%, less than 15%, one can argue. But 2010 to 14 started picking up. And then in the year 2016-17, right, just solar and wind, I'm not even considering hydro, right? Just the new capacity of solar and wind getting added was more than the combined capacity of all the other thermal sources. And this proportion is just increasing going forward, right? So to summarize, while fossil fuels still are a large part of the economy, the winds of change are already there, right? In the case of renewables. And this is where all the growth, right? Or a lot of the growth is happening. And again, we just forecasted the power generation mix, right? From today till 2050. And this is again power generation mix, not energy mix, power generation mix from around 20-25% renewables in the power generation mix. We believe that by 2050, right, we'll have 70% or as high as 18-90%, right, of all the power generation coming from renewables by 2050. Now let's see what is driving this big shift, right? Like why is so much renewable capacity coming up and why is the thermal capacity getting reduced, right? And the answer to that, right, can anyone guess why is it happening? What is the answer to that? What determines, right, how much in the how much capacity will come, which capacity will come? And the hint is, it is there in the it's there in the topic of the session. Of course, it's cheaper. So when something is cheaper, what happens? Cost awareness, yes. So it's cheaper. Economics are better. So Kedar, you are muted.
Okay, can you hear me now, folks?
Yes.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Sorry for the uh, let me just try again. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you still hear me? Okay, perfect, perfect. So let's continue, right? So, yes, so it's economics, right? It's economics, it's cost awareness, it's policy. So, all of these things. Now, when all of these things come together, right, what we start seeing, right, is a huge shift in capital. So, in the end, whether there's a lot of questions we have, right? कि hydrogen pickup करेगा या नहीं, electric vehicles pickup करेंगे या नहीं, बैटरी स्टोरेज पिकअप करेगा या नहीं, राइट? और बैटरी स्टोरेज में से लिथियम आयन पिकअप, विल फ्लो बैटरीज पिकअप, विल लेड एसिड पिकअप, राइट? ऑल ऑफ दीज क्वेश्चंस वी हैव. Will solar thermal pickup or solar PV pickup, right? Now the now what's a I'll give you a hint, right? How do you decide which of these technologies will become big, right? And the hint here is follow the money. So wherever large investors or large capital globally, right? Whichever technology they are pumping money after, that is what you can expect, right? Will become big in the next few years. And that is what we see, right? If you That is what we see happening globally. Money is honey, exactly, right? So where money goes, that's where I think all the technology grows. That is where jobs get created, right? So always, like, as people of engineering or as people who've not gotten exposure to business and finance, right, this is my biggest learning when I started consulting, that always look at where money is flowing, where investment is happening, where capitals are flowing, because that will determine now which is the direction in which jobs will get created and opportunities will get created. So if you see here now, uh, uh, currently, uh, $2 trillion, right, which is like money that is equivalent to the India's GDP, that has already been invested in renewables in the last 4 to 5 years. And in the next 10 years, $10 trillion. So this is 3 times the economy of India. That is going to come out of fossil fuels or old energy and will get invested to new energy, right? This includes your renewables, this includes energy efficiency, this includes your electric vehicles, this includes waste to energy, right? All of the good things, right? Making the world a better place. So 3 times the economy of India is going to flow into that much capital is going to flow into it. And this money is being invested by the biggest people in the world, right? So the names that you see in the middle, they are the people that hold all of your money. So the money governments have, the money we invest, right, in stock markets, all of that money is managed by some of these big banks in the world. And all of them have decided, right, to stop funding new thermal projects and put money in renewable projects. And this is, like we said, right, being driven by poor performance of the fossil fuel industry, right? Uh, Cost awareness of renewables, regulations and policies, which Neeraj will tell us about, right? And also, as a generation, right, all of us, or millennials or Gen Z as they call it, right, they are saying that we want our money to be invested in companies that are making the world a better place, right? So all of this is driving this, as we call it, irreversible shift, right, towards sustainability in the world right now. So just re-emphasizing what I mentioned at the beginning, y'all are at a very good, y'all have made the right decisions, right, and are in the right industry right now. And I don't know if this decision was consciously made or it just happened. Like for us, when we joined now, हमारे लिए तो था भाई आपकी रैंक डिटरमाइन करती है आप कौन से ब्रांच में जाते हो, but so for some of us the decision got taken accidentally or by chance, but many of you who've taken this decision consciously, I think they've made the right decision. Now I think let's come to India. We've all of us know a lot of solar addition has happened. 30 almost 36 almost 40 gigawatts right now, 100 gigawatts planned in the next 2-3 years, 445 gigawatts, right, solar plus wind by 2030 that the prime minister just uh, announced in last month, right? So India is among the top 5 renewable markets globally, right, and is attracting a lot of capital here. Now, uh, another very interesting way to look at renewables, right, is in any country, whenever renewables or any new industry, you can pick up electric vehicles, right, or hydrogen also. When it develops, it goes through 3 phases. The first phase is early days, right, when let's say the government is giving a lot of incentives, uh, and based on that a lot of people then start putting money, right, there's a lot of margins to be made. Then people enter, then the countries, this is the first, right, early days. Then folks enter the second stage. Second stage is a fierce competition stage, right? So this is when the technology now takes off by itself. You don't need a lot of government push for it, right? So the prices fall down, economics take over, right? People's awareness takes over, and then ekdam competition ho jata hai. Like there's so many people who are sort of competing for the same resources, right? And then like what we saw in the solar bids and wind bids that happen, na? Matlab, even 1 paisa difference pe there's like so many people. And then there is a system integration phase, which is okay. Now I have a lot of renewable capacity built in, but now I need to integrate it with the grid. So I'll need storage, I'll need hybrids, I'll need hydrogen, right? So now it's no longer pure play solar or pure play wind that's being built. It's your hybrid plants that are being built. It's storage that is being built. So these are the 3 horizons that renewables or any new business, right, in any country will take up. So the question again for all of you is, in which horizon is India right now? Horizon, so the option, so please type in chat either horizon 1, horizon 2 or horizon 3. So solar PV in India is in which horizon? Okay, early days. A lot of people are saying early days. There's Manu has said system integration. Okay. Some people are saying fierce competition. Prateep is saying system integration. Kritika is saying early days. Himanshu is saying early days. Okay. Vaishak is saying early days. Okay. So now all the people who said early days are like, if you would have said this while we were in college, 2014-15, you all would have been absolutely right. Right? So 2015 se leke 2017, right, is when you can say, or earlier than that, right, is when you can say India was in the early days. So this was a time when government was giving incentives, 7 rupees, 8 rupees solar tariff tha. Wind ke liye aapko generation based incentives milte the. A lot of government push, right, to make this viable. Then from somewhere around 2017 to let's say late 2019, right, India entered into the fierce competition phase, right, where if you see the recent tenders, like the people who quoted 2.001 and people who quoted 2.02, right, they lost the recent solar tenders. So this is fierce competition. There's almost 50-60 players, right, global players, Indian players, PSUs, everyone who is trying to compete for that one additional paisa, right, of tariff. And now what we are moving towards, right, is the system integration phase. I don't know, have any one of you heard about hybrid plants? Right? Hybrid plants are basically, you have your solar plant, you have your wind plant, and then you have battery storage or pumped hydro. And when you combine all of this together, because there is complementarity, right? Like you can see, so solar runs in the day, your wind will run in the evenings, right? And then you have your green battery storage, which will then compensate for the times when there is no solar, no wind. And when you look at all of these three together, right, you get sort of a flat, like a coal power plant kind of a load profile. So these are hybrid plants. And last year, India actually auctioned 1.2 gigawatts and 400 megawatts, right, of hybrid plants in Jan and May last year. And these were at a price that was lower than the price of a new build coal power plant. So India is right now, right, actually at a end of the fierce competition phase, end of phase 2, and moving into phase 3, right, which is the system integration phase. Now, uh, with that, uh, let me just come to the last part that I wanted to cover in 5 minutes, and then we'll get into the question and answers. And for that, I will try to share the whiteboard. Can everyone see the whiteboard?
Yes.
Perfect. 1 second. Let me just fantastic. And let me just try to find the pen and draw. Good. Sorry, this is too thick. Let's pick this one. Yes, this is perfect. Let's change the color to probably dark blue. Perfect. Okay. So now, what are we going to do, right? And here, keep on typing on chat, and I'll keep on adding here. But we are going to see, like we saw, right? In the end, it's a lot of your financial viability, right, or investors that determine where, like, which industry picks up, right? So if I'm an investor, let's say I'm an Adani, I'm a Tata Power, I'm a Greenco, I'm a Renew, right? And I am deciding what tariff to bid. Like, should I bid for 2 rupees? Should I bid for 2.5 rupees? Should I bid for 3 rupees, right? Uh, how do I decide that, right? Of course, there is a very complicated financial model that runs at the back of it. But how do I decide how much should I bid for? Or let's say if I've already bid for 3 rupees, what are the things that I can do to make more money from the same renewable project, right? So for that, what all of these companies create, right, is they create something that's called an IRR model or a financial model. I think all of you, even postgraduate students, right, you all will have made or will know about this in energy economics. So and IRR model, what we'll try to do is we'll try to recreate this in a very crude manner right now, right? And the way investors look at this, no, is that they try to maximize returns. And when you talk about returns, returns is nothing but the profits. Sorry, let me just put this here. It's nothing but the profits that you will make, right, divided by the capex or the capital, right, or the money that you've invested, right? So this is the thing that investors will try to maximize: the profits that you will get divided by the capital that you've incurred. This is called your returns, or the rate of return that you will make. Of course, it's a very simplistic formula. Actually, it's a big, like a few MB Excel model, but just for the purpose of illustration, trying to explain it to you in a very simplistic manner. Now, let's use the chat. So what are the factors that will determine profits? And if anyone has done a consulting case study, right, it will be helpful. Like, what factors will determine profits? In the end, profit will be your revenues, right, or the revenues that you will generate minus the cost that your project has, right? Now, what will determine the sorry, let me just try to annotate there again. Yeah. Now, what will determine the revenues of your, like, let's say if you built a solar plant, 300 megawatt solar plant you are looking to build, how much revenues you will get? What will determine revenues? Anyone? Price and demand? Yes. Demand, competition. Okay. Think about it mathematically. Purchase price scale, incentives, distributions. Think about it mathematically, mathematical formula. Mathematical formula, you have a 500 megawatt solar plant that is selling to a discom, right? Or selling to secure NTPC. Electricity generation, yes. So this will be your total generation or electricity generation, right? Multiplied by perfect price, right? Or the tariff that you are getting. Now, what will your generation in turn be dependent on? So Saurabh has also written the formula here. So generation in turn will be dependent on the PLF or the CUF, right, of the plant, which is you're saying the capacity factor of the plant. You have a factor of 8760 also, but it's constant. So let's skip that, right? That multiplied by the capacity of the plant. So what we are saying is my entire revenues that I will make, that depends on the PLF of the plant or the capacity factor of the plant. It depends on how much capacity I have, and it depends on what tariff I am getting, right? Now, let's look at the cost. What will be the cost that a renewable plant will, what will be the components of cost, right, of a typical utility scale solar plant? Anyone? क्या क्या cost होगा? मतलब the largest OPEX is actually a person, a tanker, right, of water, and a person who's actually, holding the pipe and washing the solar panels, right? Not kidding. That's a large component of your OPEX till like a couple of years back. Now, of course, robotic cleaning has come up, but okay. So you have your O&M cost. Fantastic. So O&M cost. Now, what all gets included in the O&M cost, right? O&M cost is the cost of your people. It's the cost of your person who's holding the tank pipe from the tanker of water and cleaning the plants. What else will come in the repair cost, right? Repair will come in O&M cost. What else will come? Maintenance cost, employee cost, right? So this is an O&M cost. Now, all of this gets in O&M. Now, beyond O&M, what are the other cost items that are there? I think lovely, right? So panel cost, electrical equipment cost, वो सारा capex में आएगा. That will come in the capital that has been invested, right? That's not happening at a annual level, Bhavik, right? So all of that will come with the capex. What is the other annual cost that you have to pay? Research and development cost, yes, that will also come. Material cost, again, material cost comes in the capital, like one-time cost comes in capex. The annual cost comes in O&M. Tax, yes, tax is an important point. What else? Which is the largest component of cost of a renewable energy plant? मतलब annual cost जो हर साल अगर मैं 100 रुपए कमाता हूँ, I have to pay 80 rupees, right? And that 80, oh yes, Saurabh, you've got it right. Interest on capex. So if I want to build a solar plant, right, I have to take a loan from a bank and I have to put in my own equity. Now I have to pay interest on that. That is the biggest component, right? Probably as much as 60-70% of your annual revenues that you earn, right, will go into paying off your interest for a solar plant. So this I will call as the interest cost, right? And then there are other components, right? Other components will be your penalties. So for example, there are strict penalties. If I don't predict accurately, I have to pay a penalty. If I let's say if I delay the construction of my plant, right, I have to pay a penalty, right? So these are your cost components. And now let's quickly move to capex. What will be the components of capex? I think you've already told that, right? There is a panel cost, which is almost 60%, right, of your total capex, 60-70%. There's the panel cost, right? Then there is your land. Yes, employee salaries will go in O&M, some Anvaya. Then there is your interest on. Then there is land. Then there is your transformers that you have, right? So it's your balance of system. All of that will come in capex, right? So all of these things are in your capex. Now again, let's take a step back and let's say if as an investor, right, I want to improve my margins, or if I want to improve my profits, what are the things that I'll have to, that are in my control? Na? So for example, tariff तो मेरे control में नहीं है because tariff I bid, right? So tariff is not in my control. Also, capacity is not in my control because I bid for a certain megawatt of capacity, right? Uh, land price is again not in my control. Panel price is also not in my control. Like a little bit you have in your control, but in the end, what we import a lot of them from China. So whatever they set, that price we have to give, right? So what is really in your control, no, is these 3-4 things, right? And let me try to circle these 3-4 things here. There is your PLF, or how much will your solar plant generate, right? The location is fixed, everything is fixed. How much will the solar plant generate? Second is your O&M cost. So how much O&M cost will you, sorry, I hear some background noise at some. Yeah. Yeah. How much O&M cost will your plant generate, right? How much interest do I have to pay? How much penalties do I have to pay? And balance of system. So chalo yaar, module cost I cannot control, but at least can I get the plant constructed in a cheaper cost? Can I get it constructed faster ताकि interest कम हो जाए, right? So these are the 4-5 levers that all the investors have to get more returns from their solar plant. And then let's just spend 30 seconds on what are the ways, right? And please type on chat, but what are the levers that, let's say, an investor will have to increase the PLF, O&M, interest, penalties, and BOS, right? So for example, to increase the capacity factor, I'll choose the right land packet. I will tilt the solar panel in a way that it gets maximum sunlight. There is trackers that come, right? Right now in many places. So trackers some people are using. There is your design can be better, right? If I'm cleaning the plants regularly, right, then also the PLF is higher, right? So all of these things come there. Then you come to O&M, right? So if I am, let's say, reducing my O&M cost, then interest cost, right? So here is where people take a lot of foreign debt, right? Because in India the interest rates are 9-10%. Outside in Japan the interest rates are 1 or 2%. In Europe they are 1 or 2%. US they are 3-4%. Of course you have to pay the hedging cost, but that is also gets cheaper. People will try to construct the project on time, right? To avoid the penalties they have to pay. They will invest in forecasting algorithms, right, to ensure that they don't have to pay the UI or DSM penalties. uh, they will construct the project faster, right? Faster project they will construct, cheaper they'll construct the project, right, to get higher returns. So this is just a quick overview, right, of what of how investors really think about returns and increasing the returns that they get from solar projects. So let me pause here now and would love to have any questions you have regarding what we've discussed. We have probably 7 minutes, so we can take some, happy to take questions for 5-7 minutes. Either give, like, you can either type your questions on chat, or you can even share your questions, right, if you want. Okay, so we have one question. What are the kind of penalties, right? So 2-3 penalties that apply to a utility scale solar. One penalty is your penalty if your project is getting delayed, right? So how you think about project getting delayed is, if your project, like, there is, whenever you sign a PPA, right, you have a few months to construct your project. For every month that you delay your project, you have to pay a penalty. So that's one penalty. The second penalty that is there is your forecasting penalty, right? So what you have to do is, if I'm sitting today, tomorrow in every 15-minute block, how much will my solar or wind power plant generate? I have to give that schedule to the DISCOM, or to the basically the state load dispatch center, right, of that particular state. if I deviate, right, within a certain band, so let's say I say that kal in the afternoon 3 o'clock, I will generate 100 units of energy. But if I generate more or less energy, right, outside a certain band, I have to pay a penalty. This is called as deviation settlement mechanism penalty. So that's another penalty that is applicable. And that is where, right, today people are using a lot of forecasting technologies that use advanced analytics, big data, right, to accurately predict solar and wind generation. One of the biggest issues that happened last year is uh, there was very less wind blew in India last year. So the wind generation just dropped, right? And I lost revenue, but I also had to pay a lot of penalties, right? So that's the penalties that you have. Won't depreciation be a major cost? Depreciation is also a major cost, but it depends on, are you looking at a cash cost or a non-cash cost, right? Interest and everything, they are a cash cost. Depreciation is a non-cash cost, but it's just a accounting way, right, of adjusting your capex. Um, do renewable energy loans come under priority sector lending for banks? Not super sure about the latest regulations around that. Uh, Last time I heard, probably not, but Neeraj would know this more, right? What's happening right now for renewables, no, is that there is so much renewable capacity that's getting built, that and so much capital that wants to go after renewables, that people are lending to renewable players, right? Of course, the quality of the project, the quality of the developer is also important, but both foreign debt and Indian debt, right, is available for developers. A lot of players, you must have heard, Greenco, Renew, they raise green bonds from Asia or from Europe, right? That is a low cost global debt, right, that they raise through these bonds. Uh, then if we want to build faster, wouldn't it increase cost of construction as we'll use heavy machinery to build faster? I think that's a great question, Anand. So uh, there are two factors playing out here, right? One factor is the interest cost. So as soon as I have started constructing, as soon as I've procured panels, my interest meter starts ticking, right? And I will only be able to get revenues to pay back the interest once my plant gets constructed, right? So the sooner I can, and all of us know, right, the sooner we are able to pay, like credit card bills pakad lo, right, the sooner we pay the credit card bills, the easier it is, right? अगर हमने उसको एक महीना भी delay किया, अरे shit, इतना ज़्यादा interest लग गया, right? So that's the exact thing that sort of works there also. So the sooner you can construct your plant, right? Of course, there might be higher cost involved. There might be, because there are technologies now that, by the way, help you construct faster in lesser cost, right? But there might be higher cost, but it is offset by getting revenues faster and thus starting to repay your loans faster. uh, Approx payback period of solar and wind plant. So people don't look at a payback period, right? Investors of this large scale, they don't look at payback period when they look at solar or wind, because this is typically 1,000 crores, 5,000 crores of investment, right? That's actually going in. What they look at is something that's called as IRR, right? Or internal rate of return. And they look at equity IRR, मतलब उनका खुद का पैसा जो उन्होंने डाला है उसका क्या रिटर्न है, and project IRR. Project IRR is also the debt that has gone in. What is the return that the debt also makes? And this IRR is typically between, let's say, 14-15% for the best in class players, and let's say 10-11% for the worst in class players, right? Equity IRR. And think about this in terms of you are putting money in a bank or you're investing in the stock market, right? The returns that you get is the IRR. So investors are putting in money and they're getting 15% returns, right? On this, on solar and wind is how you look at it. Uh, uh, Solar plant payback is 20 to 25 years. For wind, it's more than 30 years. Well, you can, there's a formula in which you can calculate it, right? कि कितना मेरा capex है and कितना inflow आता है, but that's not the right way to look at it. Payback period, right? Uh, with lots of renewables being added to the grid, what would be the impact of grid integrity in the future? That's the billion-dollar question. That is the same question that has got the CEOs of the big renewable energy companies worried, that has got the power minister worried, that has got the investors worried, right? That is on top of mind for everyone. So what, based on our experience, right, till a 10 to 15% or even 20% renewable energy in the power system, you don't have to spend a lot of time on you don't have to spend a lot of capital on integration, right? India is currently at a 10-12% stage, right? So India is just at that ballpark. But when you start going beyond 15%, right, of renewable energy generation in your power mix, then hell starts to break loose, right? You need to think about reserve capacity, you need to think about storage, integration, and everything. And currently, that's where most of the research is going on right now. And some of the solutions are, instead of building a solar plant or wind plant, build a hybrid plant. Hybrid plant will give you, it's a combination of solar, wind, and storage, but it'll give you a round the clock, right? Kind of profile. Well, a flat generation like a coal power plant, right? It'll give you at the same cost. The other solution is storage or hydrogen, right? One more solution is looking at hydro or pumped hydro, right? Or storage to store power when excess generation is there and to dispatch power when less generation is there. One more solution is interconnecting the grids, right? So one world, one sun, one grid project that's going on, or even interconnecting the India grid with the Middle East grid, right? That gives some buffer capacity. Then there is demand response programs. So shifting demand at a time when the generation is more, right? So all of these are potential solutions that people are thinking of, right? Of integrating renewables into the grid. I know we are out of time, so we can end this session now, but was great interacting with all of you. I might have to drop off in a couple of minutes, but if you have any questions, if you need any help, if you need any guidance, if you need any help in careers or placement also, right? Feel free to reach out to my email ID. Happy to put you in touch with the right folks. Happy to give you guidance on this. The last thing I'll say is that all of you are, you all have chosen the right stream, right area, and you all have chosen the right industry, right, and the right time to be in it. So you all are among the lucky ones, and like, I'm sure there's a very bright future for all of you ahead. Thank you very much, folks. Loved interacting and discussing with you. Hope our paths cross again soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ketan.